Alright, we're going to continue solving multi-step equations, and we're going to use some real-world situations and write equations to solve. So John receives a day's worth of pay P for 4 days of newspaper delivery. And then he spends half of his money on gas. Then he spent $5 on coffee. Now he has $35 left. How much does John get paid each day for newspaper delivery? Okay, that is the question. How much does John get paid each day? Well, they told us that a day's worth of pay is P, so we're going to use P to represent that. And on part A, it asks us to write an expression for the amount of money that he earns in 4 days. Well, if he gets paid P each day, then that has to be 4P. Use part A to write an expression to represent spending half of his money on gas. John currently has $4P, but he's going to spend half of it. So let's divide it by 2, and that's how much he has left. Alright, use part B to write an expression to represent spending $5 on coffee. Well, right now he has 4P divided by $2, and if he spends 5 more, we're going to subtract 5. Finally, if John has $35 left, we're supposed to write an equation that can be used to find how much money John gets paid each day. Well, he currently has 4P divided by 2 minus $5, which they're telling us is $35. So it has to equal $35. When you write an equation, notice that you have a variable on one side of the equation and a number on the other side of the equation. That variable should never be alone. Some of you have been writing equations. Yes, they're equations because they have a variable on one side and numbers on the other, but you've already solved for your variable because you're trying to do the problem in your head. That is not our goal. Alright, so let's go ahead and solve this equation. I'm going to do this work on the side. 4P divided by 2 minus 5 equals 35. So first thing I need to do is to move the number using inverse operations that is not attached to the P. So that means adding 5 to both sides, which means that 4P divided by 2 is going to equal 40. Then I can do 4P divided by 2, that is 2P, and that equals 40. Then I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. P is going to equal 20. So John makes $20 each day.
Alright, our second situation, it says Han saved his newspaper delivery pay for the last 6 days. He receives an additional $5 each day for gas. He bought a CD for $12.60 and then deposited the rest of his money equally into a savings and checking account. Han deposited a total of $47.40. We want to find out how much does Han get paid each day for newspaper delivery. Okay, write an expression for the amount of money Han earns in 6 days. Well, if P is the amount he gets paid each day, then he's going to earn 6P for his delivery pay, but he's also receiving $5 each day for gas. So since it's 6 days, he's earning a total extra of $30. Use part A to write an expression to represent buying a CD that costs $12.60. Well, now, if he has 6P plus $30 and he spends $12.60 to buy the CD, you're going to subtract $12.60. It might be good at this point to go ahead and actually do that subtraction. This is 6P and then plus. So now you're going to do 30 minus $12.60. That should be $17.40. Okay. Use part B to write an expression to represent how much money Han deposits in each account. Well, we know that he deposits his money equally into the accounts. So if we divide by 2, that'll give us the amount that he deposits into each account. He deposits a total of $47.40, but that total is the total that's in both accounts. So we need just the amount that's in one of the accounts. So you would have to do $47.40 divided by 2. Okay? Now, if Han deposited $47.40, write an equation that can be used to find how much he gets paid for delivering newspapers each day and solve. Well, this is our equation up above. Notice that both sides have been divided by 2. If we want to solve this equation faster, all we need to do is look at the numerators. 6p plus 17.40 equals 47.40. Now we use inverse operations. Subtract 1740 on both sides. That'll give us 6p equals $30. So if we divide by 6 on both sides, he gets paid $5 for each day of delivery. Alright, now these next two situations we do not have questions to help us walk through and write an equation. So we need to develop our own method of asking ourselves questions. It says Usha had a balance of negative $84. Yes, that's possible. That's if she spent too much money. Okay, and she worked for 6 days and put half the money in the bank. So she's trying to get back in the positive. Now she has a balance of negative $45. How much does Usha get paid each day for the newspaper delivery? Alright, the question is, how much does she get paid each day? So let's let P equal her pay per day. Alright, we start with a balance of negative $84. She gets paid P dollars each day. So she works for 6 days. That means she so far gets paid 6p. That's how much money she has. It also says that she puts half of that money in the bank. So half of 6p is 3p. So to that negative $84, she's going to add half of her pay, 3p. And that gives her balance of negative 45. Now we're going to solve this equation. If you do not like the negative 84 coming before 3p, you can rewrite it, but we need to start getting used to solving it this way. This says negative 84, so we're going to add 84 to both sides, plus 84. So on the left we have 3p, and on this side we have 39. Then we can divide by 3 on both sides, and we find that p has to be 13. So Usha gets paid $13 each day for her newspaper delivery. Alright, last problem. Tamar has saved her newspaper delivery pay for 10 days. Her mother gives her $5 allowance each day, and she decided to budget an equal amount of money for each day of her 5-day vacation. She has $45 available to spend each day on her vacation. How much does Tamar get paid each day for the newspaper delivery? So again, let P be the pay per day. Alright, right now, Tamar has saved up 10 days worth of newspaper pay. That is 10p. Her mother has also been giving her $5 allowance each day. So 5 times 10 days, that's an extra $50 that she has. Alright, she's deciding to budget an equal amount of money for each of her 5 days in vacation. So that means you need to take the amount that she currently has and divide that amongst the 5 days that she's going to be going on vacation. And now that should be the $45 that she has to spend each day. So now we need to solve this equation. I see a fraction, and I see that it's been divided by 5, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. Times 5 times 5. So that gives me 10p plus 50 equals, and let's see here, that's 225. Now I'm going to subtract 50 on both sides. 10p equals, and when I subtract 50, we're going to be getting 175. If I divide by 10 on both sides, that means that her pay is $17.50 per day.